Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is Beyond the Hype, Real AI and Automation that Drives Logistics. Today's webinar is presented by Fleet Enable, and I am happy to welcome you here today. My name is Michelle LeBlanc. I'll be your host for today. A couple pieces of housekeeping. If you do have questions throughout the event, we will be monitoring the questions and comments that come in on our live stream and responding to all of those. If we don't get to them during the live session, our team will follow up with you after the fact, so feel free to drop those into the chat. Today, I am very excited to have two speakers here with me, both from Fleet Enable, to help us dig in beyond the hype. We were recently together at Fleet Enable's Deliver Better conference, and of course, the hot topic there, as with many events this year, was AI and the real-world impact that it is going to have on our whole industry. So please welcome today our speakers. We have Ravi Shabali, Director of AI with Fleet Enable, and Corey Campbell, our Director of Product. Thank you both for being with us here today.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
So today's presentation is really intended to dig in, like we said, beyond the hype. What is AI actually doing in the industry? Not just buzzwords. We're going to go beyond ChatGPT. I'm really excited for a lot of the things we're going to discuss today and what they could mean for everyone that's listening in. To get started, though, let's take a little bit of a look at AI industry trends overall. So these first couple questions are really going to look at that. I would love to hear from both of you. What do you think are the biggest AI or automation trends, specifically in our world of final mile logistics right now?
Route optimization is something that they talk about. It's an evergreen topic, right? Everybody wants to get real-time tracking, alerts, and all of that. So that's something that as there are improvements being made, it gets better and better, but that's something that is active. But the other big thing that's critical is the use of agentic AI and the power of agents on the platform to make it intelligent, self-optimizing, and proactive. This shift has powered a new generation of AI agents that can handle complex tasks automatically and autonomously. As in Fleet Enable, what we've done is we've created several agents, and we call it the supply chain automation framework, which enables our customers to use these agents to automate their processes within the platform.
Great. So you brought up an interesting term there, agentic AI. So that's as opposed to generative AI. Is that correct for anybody that might not have heard that before?
Absolutely, yeah. The way I say it is generative AI is the backbone for agentic AI. In generative AI, you're actually training the models, the large language models on, large volumes of data. You're making sure you identify the patterns, the trends, and the structures of the data and all of that. But with agentic AI, you give it the power boost by setting up, these agents to be able to do autonomously work on business process. That's the big difference there.
Great, thank you. So Corey, what about you? Any big trends in AI or automation in final mile logistics that Ravi didn't cover there?
Yeah, I'll cover it a little bit more from a product standpoint. So from the user's experience standpoint, that you'll see a lot happening in even a lot of the LLMs out there right now. And that's really trying to solve how you visualize the AI decision-making process, which really goes back to some Nielsen-Norman heuristics, one of which is the visibility of system status. And so when you're interacting with these AIs or the agents are making decisions, there is a trust piece that has to be solved with users and helping them understand what's actually happening behind the scenes. So you can think about this from, like, let's say like you were to ask something just as general as like something about weather. You're going to have to measure, like the first thing that like the AI is going to have to do is just to understand the intent of what it is that you're asking, right? Like checking the weather info. And then it might be, well, no location was provided. And so it's going to have to assess, well, what am I going to respond with now that I don't have that information? It might try to use your IP address if it has access to that. It might try to use tools like from the server to get you information on that. There might be like snippets of searches that it goes through through the web. It might just come up with a generic location, etc. And so if the response just back is it's 90 degrees, but you didn't see that thought process that it actually didn't know where you were located, then you as the user are going to have some sort of verification that okay, the AI may have gone through the right logic loop, but the wrong connections were in place around that. So that is something that I think that's happening a lot in the industry right now, is trying to visualize and help users understand actually what's happening in the decision-making process. I think there's also stuff around like compute power. What's a more efficient model? How do we make the AI and everything a little bit cheaper as part of it? And so when you're adopting AI into your business and helping, and it's making decisions for your operations, there is an actual cost that's associated with that in terms of the amount of compute power that's involved, and you're going to be paying for that. And so these different models are trying to how do we lower the cost of that, make it more efficient, and also again the trust factor, the reliability of the output, I think is a big trend that I think a lot of these different AI companies are trying to solve as well as us.
Absolutely. Yeah. As more and more AI is getting embedded into everything we're touching every single day, how does that impact the actual user experience of how people are interacting with it? So let's look at it from a little bit of a different stance. What trends do you think are the most overlooked in our industry right now?
From my standpoint, as I've done analysis on different systems and all, what I see is that they're able to build one-offs. When you're building one-offs, you're not going to get a large component, large value from the AI. When you look at AI, what you need to do is you have to make it an integral part of the platform. When you make it integral part of the platform, you know that these are the steps that can be automated. This is where the manual intervention comes in, but the overall workflow, cost-wise, timing-wise, performance-wise, all of that gets better. That's the most overlooked in my opinion. And when we talk about what we do in Fleet Enable, we've looked at it holistically, and I think we'll cover that a little later also. We have the AI first strategy. We're looking at different agents and seeing how these agents can be integral part of the platform itself.
Great. So not just solving a problem for one person, one time in one instance, but how do you then take that and do it at scale and get some of that efficiency that Corey was referring to as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say on top of that, again, like kind of looking at it from that user's perspective, the end user, I think one of the areas that's maybe being overlooked a little bit is the user control and freedom when it comes to the interaction with the data that the AI is performing with, as well as just the helping users, recognize, diagnose, recover from things that they may have had problems with. Again, these are all kind of mapping to heuristics, which are basically standards and practices that are good just when it comes to displaying information in terms of a UI. Well, now we're interacting more, maybe even conversationally with a lot of AIs, or AI is doing a lot of things behind the scenes that you can't see. And so, there you may have had, your own interaction with some LLMs where maybe you write a specific prompt and then the AI returns a response, and then you maybe respond to that response, but you may have used the wrong word or messaged it in a different way, and now somehow that is tied forever in that kind of memory, at least so it feels. The AI keeps referring back to that one mistake that you may have made. And so I think that's actually an interesting problem that will be good to solve, as well as just like help and documentation around like what's happening with the AI. Again, I think for a lot of people that are getting into AI, especially in the logistics space, where the thing that we're trying to do is move this from here to there, right? It's very simple and basic. When you introduce like the kind of cloudy murkiness that seems like it's AI, being able to understand and help users understand what's actually happening behind the scenes, I think becomes increasingly important, so that it's not so magical and mysterious, but you can actually see, trust, and verify the information that the AI is providing, or the actions that it's taking on your behalf.
Great. So I think that's actually a great tie into our next question, because I heard you use that term trust a little bit there. And I think this next question gets into that. There is so much conversation around AI. Every single tool and platform, and even Google search now, is presenting AI in front of us all the time. I think there is a little bit of a lack of trust sometimes with companies actually using this in their business operations. Is this giving me the right answers? Or I have a little hesitancy about giving up something that I'm doing and using AI for it. So let's talk about that a little bit. What is real versus what is hype?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, right? Generative AI is the backbone for agentic. And with generative AI, because you've trained the models on different scenarios, different documents, large volumes and all, now you have the power that they can think and act like a human. But the most important thing with agentic is that you're able to come up with your business process that is pretty much automated, and you say, okay, this is where I'm going to use this particular agent, right? We've talked to our customers and we understood there are some voice agents that are very powerful. Like, for example, they have a lot of turnaround in terms of drivers coming in, going out, but they have standard operating procedures. But these drivers, because they don't know the standard operating procedures, they keep they keep calling the dispatcher. And it takes time for him to respond back to them and all. But instead, if they would have called a voice agent and it has a script to say, hey, this is what needs to be done in this scenario, the dispatcher doesn't have to worry about these things, right? So essentially, there are different areas within the company that can benefit from these agents and at different times.
Right. So the process kind of had to be defined first, that they had this
Absolutely.
operating process, and then the AI is really just creating a tool for putting that into play in a way that's easier and more efficient, and doesn't take up a human having to look up those same directions every single time.
Yeah, and then these agents, because they follow the workflow, now that you've set up, hey, these are the 5 steps in the workflow. It knows what needs to be, it is intelligent enough to know what needs to be done at each step and make sure that, okay, this is how the process is completed accurately, efficiently, and in a timely manner, right?
Corey, anything to add there from you in terms of, what is just hype about AI versus what's real?
I think Ravi did a good job on that. I do think that we're in sort of this transitional period when it comes to AI, of completely hands-off approaches around certain things. Again, I think there's that trust factor. Like, you have to understand your process, and you've probably heard of hallucinations and things that happen sometimes when it comes to AI, and that's really just the information that it's feeding off of. And so there is this point where you do have to understand your operating procedures well enough to understand that, are you getting the right, good and solid outputs that you're wanting or expecting from AI as well. The interesting thing about what Fleet Enable is doing, right, is that we're not just tapping into a bunch of general data. We're actually going to be applying a lot of this to practical data, your data from an operations standpoint that you are using and leveraging to understand and run your business. So I think there's some really interesting practical aspects coming out of this. So it's also not like, I don't think it's like a quick switch type of thing either. I think that's probably maybe the hype piece too, that it's going to solve all of my problems. I think the problems just change is what's going to happen, and who's going to be managing those problems and the creative aspects around that. How to solve those interesting problems is going to change, and how you go about answering them as well.
Yeah, I want to maybe extend that a little bit, and because Corey mentioned it, it's real versus hype, right? When you think about a report agent, for example, one of the agents that we talk about all the time that we are actively working on and we are piloting with our customers is if you ask a question of a user of a system and it gives you a standard report, that's one thing. But when you're able to dynamically ask any question on your data, and then the agent is able to understand, number one, the context of the question. Number two, the data that's there, is it valid or not, right? So being able to map those things together and able to generate a report on the fly, it becomes very powerful for you to make business decisions based on the data. And that's where the power of agents comes in, because it knows that the user needs to generate the report and there are n number of steps to generate that report. It follows all of them through to make sure he gets what he needs.
Great. All right. So, obviously we're coming at this from the background of Fleet Enable, but part of our job is staying in touch with everything that is happening in the industry and is out there, both with other final mile softwares and other logistics companies in general. How are other providers kind of handling introducing AI and automation into their products today?
Like I said earlier, what I've seen is that there are one-offs and they don't really solve the entire problem. That's where I see the challenge. But from our standpoint, we look at it as an agent being able to solve all the steps of the workflow to be able to deliver value to the customer. I'll give you an example, right? The email agent that we have, whenever a new email comes in, it knows what type of email this is, what is the workflow that needs to be triggered to be able to complete that process. And also it is interacting with other agents like document processing agent to be able to extract the information from the document. And then also add some key components in terms of, hey, there's this standard extraction, but also this information is relevant to this customer. So add that also on top and then create the order. So this way, human doesn't have to go back in, make the changes, and then, refix the issue and all of that, right? So that's how we think about agents being, autonomous and be able to deliver end-to-end solutions.
Yeah, I think some providers are also out there are not really even adopting the automation and leaving a lot of their customers hanging out to dry, which kind of flies in the face of like what you're supposed to be doing and supporting your customers. So not even looking at innovative and what's the next greatest thing out there is problematic. And there are others that I think become put the blinders up and are solely focused on maybe their investment partners and whatnot. And so it's all about like what we were talking about, chasing the hype piece and not supporting their customers long term and pulling the rug out from under them as well. And so Fleet Enable, I think, is doing a really good job of looking at what we have from an infrastructure standpoint. How do we pull AI through that in a continuous story, like Ravi was, kind of mentioning there, and making sure that existing customers and like their current processes are accounted for, as well as making sure that they're not just staying comfortable. Like one of the things that I mentioned at the Fleet Enable conference is that we're not comfortable with staying comfortable. We want to keep pushing and making sure that we're bringing those innovations and opportunities for our customers as well through AI and other innovations.
Great. Yeah. And I think it's, not just other comparable products to Fleet Enable as well. But I know, Ravi, you mentioned voice agents earlier, right? So there's a lot of individual products out there that are trying to solve one specific job versus having those multiple different agents working together. And certainly a lot of hype around all of those. All right. So I have one last question that's kind of looking at where we are at as an industry overall. with all this talk about agents, that example you gave earlier of, the dispatcher no longer having to answer these questions every single time, it's obviously an important thing to think about it from this perspective as well. How are all these agents and all this automation not just about replacing jobs?
Whenever I think about this question, I always believe from the bottom of my heart that, automation, AI, and all is not always about replacing jobs. It's about growing the company. When I say that, right? If people are not having to do manual data entry to, put orders in, you could essentially hire people who are actually understanding your data, figuring out, hey, how is my business relationships? What are the where we are going up, where we are going down? What can I do to get better, right? There's also other areas where these people can be assigned to be able to grow the company and business. That's where I feel like you can help not only deliver quality, but also make sure your business grows by using automation.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to look at, what repetitive tasks are happening within your companies, like operations, and what are you capable of being able to automate, rather than like necessarily like the jobs that are being replaced. It's like, and diversifying your workforce accordingly around that, right? Like the automation of things is, kind of continuous. It's not something that's just unique to this moment in time. Industries change as innovation progresses, and new areas and focuses arrive alongside of that all the time. So I think, the automation is going to be like augmenting a lot of roles by handling what Ravi was talking about with like the repetitive tasks. I think, creative problem solving, relationship management, customer interactions, and a lot of the strategic decision making is going to increase in value over time. And so if you're looking at your workforce and you're trying to identify where are we going, like you're often like connecting with those people that are thinking about stuff from a strategic standpoint. Even your dispatchers, right? Like they know a lot of information that maybe you don't know in terms of context. A lot of that is going to become increasingly important in how you differentiate from your competition. So, I think there might be some realignment of jobs still, just realistically, towards maybe oversight and customer experience refinement over time. But, at the end of the day, right, logistics can be a low margin industry. It's, efficiency is important. And I think the industry is always going to try to find some way of lowering the cost to move things.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. The example, Ravi, you gave earlier of the being able to query the report agent, right, is interesting to me, because that still really very much relies on the person who is thinking about the questions within their business that they're trying to solve there, and what they're putting in, and putting those answers, but just giving them a tool to be able to do that more quickly and more easily, and using natural language.
Absolutely. And they don't have to worry about technology too, right?
Yeah. All right, so we've teased this a little bit, but now let's dig in specifically. Obviously, as with any good software user conference, we announced a lot of exciting updates at Deliver Better, and many of those were specifically related to AI and automation. So these next couple questions are really going to dig into that a little bit, and how Fleet Enable specifically is applying these things that we've been talking about. So to start off, what inspired Fleet Enable's focus on automation?
Yeah, I'll jump in here first. So I think we spent a lot of time understanding the pain points of our carriers and our the supply chain automation frameworks, and really trying to address the most critical needs around that. So I think it really stemmed from a lot of questions like, how do I reduce my overhead and reduce mistakes? How do I remove, repetitive and those tedious tasks like we've been mentioning? And, how can I understand how my operation is going without really digging like continuously, right? Like something that might take maybe days to figure out, might be important right now sometimes. And so I think for us, like it's come down to, reducing that mental like overload, right? Route optimization was, understanding traffic conditions, routes accessibilities, appointment timing. There's a lot of balance and a lot of different things to think through. And so I think removing those repetitive tasks, the tedious tasks as well of things like manual order creation was another way. And I think, in terms of like what inspired it, right? Ultimately, it's talking with our customers, interacting with them, figuring out what their pain points are and what they're facing in terms of the industry. Ravi, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just say that, when we talk to our customers, we like Cody said, right? It's about understanding their pain points and trying to see where we can make their jobs easier, right? And one of our customers, when we showed him the report agent, he's like, "Hey, you gave Christmas arrived early." Right, so he was so excited. He's like, "Give me the tool, I want to test it out and all." I think that's what really excites us deep down. When our customer is happy, they're excited that I can make I can make my decisions faster, or this makes my life easy. That's what excites us.
For sure. You can see their eyes light up with the aha moments, like when we're talking about some of these things that like, wow, that frees my time up from, spending so much time on this to these other things that I really care about.
Yeah, absolutely. Beyond the hype, the real world impact.
You got it.
So to dig into that a little bit further, you've given a couple examples there. What are some other pieces or types of customer feedback that have shaped some of these new features that we're adding?
Maybe I'll take this one first. Any of the new things that we are working on, we actually closely work with our customers. What we do is we understand, number one, the pain point and what they're trying to do. Once we have clarity on those two things, unfortunately, we also have a fixed number of resources on our end. So then we prioritize that and we say, okay, now that we understand this process, let's go about attacking it. And that's been the mantra for us, to understand their pain point, deliver to that quality, and make sure that they are excited with it.
Yeah, I mean, our mission from a product standpoint is to be that steadfast partner that's empowering carriers, businesses to adapt, to grow, to stay ahead. So, I mean, we want our customers to have that enterprise level access to AI and automation with their data, right? Some of the companies that we work with, are large, but some might even just have like, a few trucks, right? And so while other organizations have access to like maybe their own technology teams and can forward a lot of the investments that come in from like an AI perspective, I think these smaller businesses are at risk of losing their competitive edge faster without having access to AI tools and automation. And I think that's what Fleet Enable is bringing, that, again, sort of enterprise level understanding of AI and disseminating it to the people, basically. So how has customer feedback shaped feature development? That's pretty much most of what our feature development is customer feedback, talking with customers. We'll from a product standpoint, we'll do a prototyping. We'll put it in front of customers, have them interact with it from a live data perspective, even watch them record even some of like how they're interacting to even learn about how that's working, interview questions, and then bring that all back in, those learnings, into our findings. Every time we onboard customers, we're asking them and learning about our platform from new eyes every single time. So it's really exciting from a product standpoint to be a part of Fleet Enable, because you get lots of customer feedback to help shape the development and the roadmap of what people are interested in.
Great. So I think, that's really interesting as you think about the fact that even within the umbrella of Final Mile, there's so much individual nature of these businesses and so much kind of customization when you have companies that might have a line haul component, that might be working specifically with air cargo. There's a lot of different details and nuance that might come into the Final Mile space specifically. So I am curious to hear from you, how do you see AI really changing this specific space and these customers that we are talking to over the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll start to see a lot of connections across different segments within the industry, from all the way from port to destination. So each segment is going to have to start talking to one another more seamlessly, standardizing in order to, for the AI to have information that allows it to, weigh the true cost, economically, as well as, having the context needed for meeting the time expectations of customers. So I think this will also help logistics adapt to the increase in a lot of the critical events that are happening due to natural disasters, political situations, wars, etc. That flexibility piece is going to become even more important, and I think AI will be able to help adapt and make a lot of those decisions far more quickly and maybe even proactively, rather than just reactionary, which is how a lot of the industry works today when it's already too late. Ravi, do you have
Yeah,
any thoughts on that?
I'll just add accuracy, efficiency, and being aware of everything all the time, 24/7, right? Alerts, 24/7 alerts. I think those are going to be the key things as we move forward. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think I often see people say, the final mile is often the most expensive part of the supply chain, the most carbon intensive part of the supply chain, doing individual home deliveries. And I think when you think about the efficiency that is introduced by tools like just even having optimized routing, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the carriers that are working in this space to suddenly be serving their customers better and be able to scale more quickly and gain a lot of efficiency in their businesses, and hopefully grow alongside what we're doing with Fleet Enable.
Absolutely.
So we've teased it enough. I think now it makes sense to talk a little bit further about the specifics of what Fleet Enable is introducing in the world of AI, and what our current users can expect to be seeing in the product, and maybe some things that are newly being introduced.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to just tease it even more, though. So we're not just at Fleet Enable, we're not really just designing a tool that meets the needs of today. We're also building a platform that keeps our carriers competitive for tomorrow. So when we were envisioning a platform, or what we're trying to do is we're trying to envision that platform that helps your company be able to adapt dynamically, able to personalize, able to integrate seamlessly across systems, able to anticipate needs proactively, able to scale with your organization. And if you didn't happen to hear the repetitive language in each one of those, that's why we're excited to call Fleet Enable's AI Able. So we're envisioning Able as a series of unified AI agents that help assist, augment, et cetera, your workforce across the platform. And so, yeah, anything that's automated will now be Able.
Great. Well, we're not just going to tease it, because we will give people a little bit more detail than that. So what are our agents in the context of Fleet Enable?
Well, I think it's important first to talk about what is an agent. So the next graphic that we have here, I think, kind of helps tee that up. And then I'll let Ravi kind of talk a little bit deeper about the individual AI agents that Fleet Enable is going to be providing. So first and foremost, from an agent perspective, there has to be something that's like a trigger. So again, the agent is going to be something that's making decisions. So whether that's predefined criteria, your interaction with an LLM, some sort of manual defined user input, the agent is going to be listening and taking actions based on conditions. So that could be, again, predefined, or it could be manual, but it's going to be based on data that it has access to, the APIs that are available to it, the abilities that are coded within it, as well as the context that it's operating within. From that, it's going to actually take actions autonomously within the application. So that's a little bit different again from the concept of an LLM, where you're interacting from a chat standpoint, and it's coming back with responses that feel sort of humanistic. Agents are taking that next level and actually taking action on the data. So I'll let Ravi talk about some of the AI agents that Fleet Enable is going to cover.
Yeah, if you go to the next slide, I think what we realized is each of these agents can be used in different scenarios, whether it's the billing team or the dispatch team or somebody else. So we looked at creating these agents to be able to plug into any of these scenarios. So like I said earlier, right, for the reports agent, the user has the ability to not only ad hoc ask any questions about that data, but also generate a report on the fly and is able to share it with his customers or his internal team readily, right? The inbox, this is something that when you use this agent, it is going to filter the emails for you. Wherever, like Corey mentioned earlier, wherever there is sequence of steps that need to be followed and it's standardized, the agent can respond to those requests. Maybe it's status request, go to the database, look up the latest status, send it out, right? Those kind of things. Or if you have an email from your customer and they want to update the freight weight or something else, this agent can pick it up, update that information, so on and so forth, process documents. So each of them is going to be a separate workflow, but essentially for you, that you're not dealing with 100 emails when you come in, you're dealing with 5 or 10 because everything else is processed by the system. Similarly, dispatch agent. It takes into account all the criteria from origin, destination, which driver is available from what time, what trucks are available, so on and so what commodity is there, what's the size of the truck and all, and is going to propose, hey, this should be the dispatch route. Yes, the dispatcher has more insight, so he has the option to override, but the system does a large part of the work, so he can decide on what changes he needs, then he can move on with it. The other ones, voice agent. Previously, I talked about an example where dispatcher, it enables a dispatcher to not worry about those things, right? But also, if at all you're doing home delivery and the customer is not there, then immediately pick up, and get the information on where he's, how to contact him, when he will be available based on the rescheduled appointment, or ask the driver to wait 15 minutes, whatever that is, can be done without wasting time, right? So the voice agent can be used in different scenarios like that. Document processing agent is end-to-end, being able to process any type of document and is able to plug into any workflow that it's needed to. We are also working on a scenario wherein if the user provides custom rules to the document processing agent, it is able to pick that up and process that automatically in the future. Right. The last one is the most generic one, the process automation one, wherein any business process that is standardized, we are able to automate it for you, and then you can use that in your overall operations.
Yeah, so some of these we're working on right now. Some are available, and I'll let Ravi take over.
Yeah, I wanted to, we want to show you the video of one of these agents. So when you see here, what the user is trying to do is he's asking for the total revenue in 2025. It's a simple question that he's asked, but also it provided him an answer, and also what filters were applied, and also potential subsequent questions. So he doesn't have to type it. So once the additional information is provided, there's a graphic that's displayed, and this graphic is interactive, meaning the user can slice and dice the data, understand what's happening with it, and then maybe even download, send it to their customer. So these are not just mere images, you can play with them, right? In other scenarios, he may want to further drill down on this data. So, he's trying, hey, can you break it down by warehouse? So then the agent goes down further and displays the information back to him. If he wants to see a visualization, he can click on the button, it can show a visualization for him, and then he can dig further into it. One of our customers also asked us for hey, I want to understand the data so I can make a business decision. a customer is asking me 10% discount on a particular accessorial. Can I give it to him? So in this particular scenario, he's asking, what's the total revenue that I generated for this particular accessorial? He's also trying to get the total and the average revenue for this accessorial. And then finally, the number of orders. So basically, he has all the information to make an informed decision whether he can give him a 10% discount or something else. In this particular case, the customer decided to give him a 2% discount. So that's how, the agent can, provide all the details that you need on the fly to make a business decision and go on. Now, most of the scenarios, what happens is our customers love Excel. They like working in Excel. They do that only because Excel is easier, right? And they can put their own formulas in and all. But if you provide a platform where they can generate the report, they can not only download it in Excel, but play with it in the system itself with all Excel-like functions, they wouldn't have to go to Excel, right? So in this case, the user can apply the filters. He can move the column if he wants. He can delete a column. He can sort the data. Any of those options can be done right from here. So he doesn't have to go anywhere, download it and all, unless he wants to share it with other people, right? He can do everything and then he can download it. What we've also realized with our customers is they need the power to be able to generate a report and be able to share it with internal and external teams. So this is a scenario where he created a report. Now he sees, this report is good. I'm able to get the daily revenue for, August, right? So again, this is all fictitious data, but, he's able to generate the revenue. And he said, hey, can you add another column in there? So it duly adds the column that he needs. Now he has what he needs. So he's able to even schedule this report, meaning that once you've performed all your operations and you feel comfortable that this is a report that I need to be run every week or every day or every month, you can click on the schedule option, add whoever is needed to be part of that email address. If you're scheduling it, the appointment, time, date, and all that information, and then click it. That's it. So this report is not ad hoc anymore. It is delivered to you automatically at that scheduled time. That's how we're able to make it easy for them to generate any reports on their data and are able to use it in their day-to-day activities.
Yeah, I think, again, the great part about what we're showing here is that contextual piece that goes with the conversation, right? You're not being able to interact with your data like that when you're talking with, like a ChatGPT. We're actually pulling directly from your data. We're allowing you to have that additional trust piece and actually displaying it and allowing you to manipulate it, right? It's not just a standard graphic. And to me, I think that becomes more meaningful in terms of the UI, because you're getting that fast response that you're needing from AI and automation, but then you're also being able to manipulate, change, interact with the data in a UI, which I think makes that data that much more meaningful, that much more powerful.
Great. And unlike, say, downloading your data into a spreadsheet and putting that into ChatGPT, this is actually connected right into the system you're working in, so you are assured that it's real-time access to your real data. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I think that actually dovetails nicely into our next topic, which is looking at security and privacy when using AI. So let's dig into that a little bit more. What does that look like for Fleet Enable?
Yeah, I mean, at least there are, if not more, at least 5 CEOs, when they talk to me, they've asked this question. Can you make sure that people who do not have access to this data cannot see this data, right? So that's why security is core for us. Every query that I was showing you earlier also, it first authenticates the user. NAMST authorizes to make sure that the user has the privileges to see this data. Then only it does the next steps of retrieving the data, displaying it and all. So front and center, security is front and center of what we're trying to do, and want to make sure that our customers are comfortable using it without any issues with respect to security.
Great. So if you're looking at specific permission sets or things like that, to make sure to lock that down as the user for Fleet Enable, you'd be able to control that for individuals within your company or beyond the reaches of your company. If you are generating these reports, the data is all staying within the system.
Yes, we'll apply 3 levels of privacy: organizational level, role level, and then the user level, so that we ensure that a user who cannot see a particular data set does not see that. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So I think we're nearly at the end of what we're going to cover today. But before we wrap up, obviously there's been a lot of change and development within the product. We're looking at what's at the roadmap ahead and some of these exciting new things that are coming. Let's talk about the Fleet Enable initiative, AI first.
Yeah, so now when we talk about AI first, does it mean like customer second in this? We're talking about from like the platform standpoint and the way that we go about building it. So traditionally, in terms of the way that you set things up, it's a lot more it's like a monolithic approach that's really rigid. It's hard to maintain. What we're going down is more of a modular architecture. So, for example, we've got a shipper portal here. We have these other products. How do we empower these different segments and modular pieces with AI? And so you'll see here Able more like at the center of it and being able to interact each of our different teams that work on these different aspects of our system. They're looking at how do we develop each part of that platform in a way that can help feed, train, help our AI be able to help make decisions, be able to provide better information across each of those. And that could be just as something as simple as in terms of like the architectural shifts, the API access for Able, et cetera. So we're designing each of these blocks though to be self-contained, but also loosely coupled with all the other ones. It's really just kind of a block-based software that offers that flexibility, the speed, the maintainability for our users. And so we're really excited about that. And having Able as a kind of a centerpiece in terms of our automation and how we approach that is going to be an increasing focus of ours to make sure that our customers, again, are not staying comfortable with being comfortable, but we're also providing those new technologies and abilities for our carriers to be able to up their business game as they deem fit, basically. So we're really excited about Able, all of its capabilities. We're going to keep building it out to provide even more agents in the future, and the agents that we are working on, make those even more robust. We're, again, not comfortable with being comfortable. We're going to keep pressing the boundaries and making sure that we're innovating, but we're also, again, providing those secondary avenues for our customers to be able to interact with our system. You see like how we're taking a different approach when it comes to AI, where you can actually still interact with the data from a UI perspective. We don't see those things going away. We just see them as ways to augment, to enhance, and to increase the value of the system for our carriers.
Great, thank you. So before we wrap up for today, I'm just going to remind everyone, if you have questions, put them into the chat. Our team is standing by to be able to respond to those over messages there. So make sure to send those in. I want to thank both of you for taking the time to share this with our audience today. I think this is a lot of very exciting stuff, and perhaps most importantly, very applicable to the real world day-to-day of what we're all trying to get done. any final thoughts from either of you that you'd like to leave our audience with here today before we wrap up?
I think Corey summed it all up when he said, with AI first, right? Our goal is to make sure that Able is integrated is an integral part of the platform. This will enable that, any enhancement or anything that we're working on for our users, they're able to see the value readily.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that Able is the great thing about it is we're also learning from our customers that are going to be using it as well. So the experience, the questions that we asked earlier on in our conversation is just as valid when it comes to building out the experience of Able with our customers. We're not just going to be building things and this kind of hope for the best. We're still interacting with our customers. Ravi, you brought up some great use cases, interacting with CEOs when it comes to the questions that they're asking, the things that are important to them. And so I would say, questions in the chat or questions for later on, please keep them coming. That's how we learn. That's how we thrive at Fleet Enable, is hearing from our customers and doing our best to sort through that feedback and align it to a strategic way that we can actually make happen and make a lot of those different dreams and thoughts come true within the platform. So it's really exciting to be able to go through this with everyone.
Great, thank you. So I will say, for anybody who's watching today that is interested in learning a little bit more about this, whether you're an existing Fleet Enable customer who maybe just wants to get more of a one-on-one demo of some of the new stuff that it has been introduced or that is coming, or you are just interested in getting started, I do hope you get in touch. We'll make sure and put out on our event here the link to our demo request form, so you can go ahead and fill that out and schedule some time. I know the team would be very excited to talk with you, and do keep those questions and that feedback coming in, because we are developing every day. So thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. Thank you, Ravi and Corey. And I hope you join us back here again soon for more learning like this. Let us know if there's anything specific you want to hear about. I've been Michelle LeBlanc, and I am signing off now for our Beyond the Hype webinar.
Thank you. Yeah.